Welcome and thank you for tuning in to the home of the most competitive game coverage, most intense unit analysis, and the highest of high-level plays ever seen by two casuals who barely know where the rule booklet is. You're listening to This is for Worlds. Let us join Aaron and Phi and see what competitive topic is on the docket today. Hi, and welcome back to This is for Worlds. I'm Phi.
And I'm Aaron.
And we're all just idiots on the internet.
Hey,
Yeah, no
can relate.
I think we have a little bit of a decent show. Probably going to be a little bit shorter this time around, as even though it's been a little bit of a minute before we've recorded. Our schedule has been somewhat light in terms of getting certain games in, but as usual, do we want to start with modeling for advantage?
What have you been working on?
Nothing for gaming, in a sense. Cracked out a bunch of like full scale models, 135th, 124th stuff, and knocked them out. And then I realized I'm an idiot and dumb because it's been a hot minute since we have played Team Yankee. And as soon as I complete my list and I have the last piece, the one ring that I'm currently missing from running that French list, I'm going to want to try and play that again. But the dumb part comes into I was having a conversation, and I'm in a lot of model groups because I like to keep my eye out for very specific kits that I like feel my niche that our store doesn't get, or I don't necessarily feel like driving to the good hobby town to peruse their wares because it's a long ass drive.
Before you go any further, which one are you talking about? Hobbytown in Silverdale or somewhere else?
No, in Renton, the one in Silverdale is
Mm,
tiny and
yeah, fair.
it's not bad. Some of my more niche models, in terms of like, that's where I found all my Area 88 aircraft and the Ace Combat, except for one of them that I have aircraft, the specific kits. Like, don't get me wrong, like, I will go, but they tend to kind of run like the most common models in terms of like, do you want 8 different M4 variants? Well, here's 8 M4 variants, and you're like, I don't want to build another Sherman. I'm looking for like very specific things. So I keep my eye out in a lot of model groups. And I was talking to this one guy and ended up buying off of him um, the small scale um, Star Wars Bandai kits. So the ones that range anywhere from like 1/100th up to like 1 or down to 1/5000th type stuff. Like they're super tiny. Like the box comes in a 1 inch by 2 inch by 4 inch box, and it's a super tiny build. They're usually pretty quick. But I saw some that uh, I didn't have in my collection yet. I was like, yeah, I'll take these. And in the rest of that post, and I remember looking at it and being like, that's dumb. Who builds model in that scale? Doop, da doop, da doop. Kept going on about my day until earlier this morning while I was waiting for a customer to let me into the building. I was like scrolling through Facebook again, and it hits me with the same post that had been updated because the Star Wars models were gone. And then I realized, wait a minute, 1/144th is the airplanes in Team Yankee. Oh, I'm just dumb. Shit. Let me go back through this. And there's like a couple of pieces in there uh, that I would like an A10A, which I'm pretty sure is probably the same kit as the one that Team Yankee has. An F18. What's the other one? Fulcrum, a MiG 29 Fulcrum, and an F117 Nighthawk. I feel like I'm missing one because originally I asked for five, but the A10 was taken. Oh well. But it looks like he's only got three that I may be interested in. But I was just like, oh shit, that's Team Yankee scale because I get so used to thinking of it as 1/100th, but you forget that the airplanes, like everything that's not helicopter or ground, so just the airplanes is 1/144th. So missed out on a couple pieces that I would have loved to have like thrown in uh, my Team Yankee box and maybe seen if there was something a little bit different there. But yeah, just a reminder to like keep those eyes open. Because the other part to that is another game store. This time they threw them up on Amazon. They threw up three VBLs for the French Team Yankee Army and snagged them, and they arrived last week. So those are all assembled. And I should get the rest out of the box and like put them all together because it is. I'm trying to think. It's like it doesn't exactly strike fear into your heart. It just looks super annoying. It's like, I can just machine gun all of these.
Right, because they're like armor zero, or do they even
Probably.
have an armor value? Okay.
I have no idea. I don't really care about that. That's not the reason we're taking them. We're not taking them because they're good. So
It's just for the memes.
yeah, it's very much a uh, because I can and I want to.
I'm here for it.
So what about you? What have you been working on?
Finally finished that last batch of Marvel Crisis Protocol stuff. Shadow King is all done. They're all at the store. I will definitely be. I'll take a picture and put them up on the Instagram since I am not always thinking about that, and I probably should use that more so we can get our stuff out there. Um, but beyond that, that's kind of what I got done, and I'm kind of in like planning stages for things.
Nice.
I do have two kits I got for Christmas, but yeah, I don't really do a ton of like traditional modeling, but those are kind of just stuff that I will slowly work on throughout the year.
Yeah.
Um, but I kind of have two or three things I'm thinking about doing next. There's a fantasy skirmish game from Games Workshop that they stopped supporting years ago called Mordheim that the store is going to be doing a big terrain build on. And it's kind of one of the ones where you can have, it's like on a 3x3 or 4x4, you can have a huge, really built up table that is really cinematic and cool. Um, and still be playable towards what the game wants to be. Which is like kind of some of my criticisms of other games is that, you know, when you sit down to play, not so much Legion, but other games, you just like, okay, there are these big blobs that are essentially islands, and you play in the negative space, is how terrain functions. This one, you want it to be a built up, you know, like medieval city. I have a bunch of vintage, like 90s metal models for the most part for Beastmen. They're basically like chaotic evil goatmen. I'm going to start working on them. And then I kind of want to work on something for Legion, but I don't really want to do more Rebels because I have basically everything that I want. So I'm thinking a double heavy list and another army. But we'll talk more
Ooh.
about that once we go to cover games because I played a game that made me want to build a list and just so basically I wanted a third army um, in the bag that I take to Legion games. Uh,
Fair.
because since I'm mostly playing infantry for rebels, like I can fit a fair amount of lists in there, and I was like, I'd like one more, but I don't want another rebel one. So but that's really it. I just finished up MCP and I'm in the planning stages for some new projects.
Nice. I also realized as I was like getting all my shit together so we could record tonight that speaking of the Ace Combat models, one of the ones that I already had, um, it's like the ADF 01 something or other. I remember it more from like Ace Combat 5 or Zero Balkan War as the one with like the laser cannon on the back. The reason I bring it up is because I just looked at, like, I was walking past it and it's fully assembled, just needs to be painted. But I was like walking past it, saw the box, and I was like, this is a really tiny box. I wonder, and then flipped it over and it's like, motherfucker, it's also 144. So,
Nice.
yeah, I was just like, damn, I had something here the entire time. Like, I knew the AC 130s that I bought. I specifically looked for them and bought them in that scale. But it just kind of surprises me at how often I'm finding more and more lately in that scale that I'm like, I would love that as a proxy. And as long as it's not like super shit in terms of building, it's like I'll go out of my way and find those boxes. Because like the 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 other kits that I got were like $10, and I'm like, yeah, I'll pay $10 for that Vice. Like sitting down, finding the STL for like 5, and then spending all that time slicing, printing, cleaning, shit like that. Plus, I always just like building those models. So
Uh, yeah, especially I do like that in Team Yankee because it seemed fairly obvious after the one time where it ended up being easier for us to not put the aircraft on the stands because they kept falling off or something.
yeah,
That and the nature of how aircraft work in that game where they're on, they do their thing in a single turn and then they leave. I do like that it opens up that your ability to like kind of go out of the norm or like I think John mentioned that he wanted to do F-16s for just for his aircraft in general just because he liked them, which I can appreciate. I do like that
hell
one,
yeah.
but opening up the ability to make your stuff a little more personal to you is always I'm always on board with that.
Well, I mean, that's definitely how I feel about paint jobs in general. Like, you can't say anything in any of my armies. I think my, like, is canonical or close to historically accurate. I think the closest any of mine get is my victory at sea Italians. Like, I think they're pretty damn close. It's just they don't have the diagonal red white on the bow. They've got it on. They've got instead the Italian flag on the stern. But I'm all about like making that shit your own because, like, here's a piece of advice to anybody out there looking to start in any game is making it your own is, I'll say, it's a blessing and a curse because it really helps with the motivation because it's your thing and you're creatively excited to work on it. But if you're also like me, that means you can be creatively paralyzed by it because it won't look as good in your head as in real life. But sometimes you just got to do it, and when you do it, you're like, "Fuck yeah, that looks awesome."
Yeah, I can see how that can be. It can be difficult, right? Because if you're just, oh, I'm just gonna paint it like the box, not a big deal. It's just, oh yeah, that looks about the same. But if you build up this cool idea and you maybe talk about it, and you're like, ooh, now I got to deliver.
Yeah, but like I said, it for me a lot of the times it is that extra motivational of like, yeah, but it's gonna be mine, and it's gonna look really cool, and no one else has done this type stuff.
I had one other project actually. I don't know how I forgot it. Because I don't know if you have anything you need to work on for the our May Legion tournament, which is going to be kind of anything goes. Um, Very limited on what you're forced to take. Just celebrate Star Wars in your own way. Um, I'm going to be picking up two more snow speeders, so I can run four snow speeders and two buses. I
I
think I'm going to
mean,
do a
if you
big repaint
want,
on those.
we can just move future competitive markets up a little bit. Like we do have a somewhat of an outline if we do tend to ramble, and we can just use that as
Yeah,
a
fair.
jumping point to talk about one the upcoming tournament that was kind of your little brain baby there, and then what you're excited to run. Because I'm waffling on lists a little bit, so I don't really know what I'm gonna go with.
Yeah.
But I can run a lot of things that people would
I was gonna say
probably
you're
hate.
more than me. You're crippled by choice since you have something in pretty much everything, right?
Yeah, yeah. So talk about what you're getting your project, and then we can like go into why we're the tournament in general and like why you're getting these.
Okay, yeah. So I'm gonna run. Okay, edit this part out if you want to, because I'm brain
Fuck
dead.
no, no
Uh,
edits.
no, damn it, no edits. Do it. Fuck it. We do it live. Um, Whatever. I'll just cover the art. What I want to build and paint. Um, I've been looking for an excuse to repaint my buses. Since I've gotten a lot better with airbrushes, and I painted all of those with regular brush and rattle can, and they're just big giant flat surfaces. So I thought that would be fun.
So to preface,
So
since we cover multiple different games and the
yes.
term "the buses" may
Oh,
not
okay, yeah, yeah.
be exactly user friendly to everybody, but Aaron's specifically referring to the AA5 speeder for Star Wars Legion.
Yes, the battle bus,
The battle
that
bus.
kind of thing. Yeah, kind of looks like the VRV from Spaceballs kind of thing,
Yeah,
which is kind of one of the paint. Yeah,
without the wings. And I mean,
yeah,
people have done like the Mystery Machine paint jobs and the A Team paint job.
and that was kind of what I was thinking I was going to do is I was going to pick some sort of property that would be appropriate and have a van
I just
and go from
remembered.
there because
So again, sorry, little sidetrack. But you remember how I said you were like, why did you give Adam, hey Adam, that windshield wiper? And I told you it was for a bus.
yeah.
I just remembered why. And so next time you're at the store, or like maybe our listeners out there, prod Adam into working on it because I don't want to steal his thunder. Um, but I love the idea, and we'll just say it harkens back to like a '70s fan, and he's got some really cool ideas. So yeah, that windshield wiper was definitely for the bus because it just reminded me of a certain design elements and a feature I recommended to him for his own bus.
All right, nice.
If Adam gives me approval to say it, because he's the one who told me about it, and I don't want to steal his thunder. If we'll talk about it on the next podcast if he lets us. So, anyways,
Make sure. Yeah.
buses.
uh, yes. Repaint the buses. I kind of want to do. I don't know if you've ever seen the like reflection gradients that people do in metallics generally. Um, like I think it's earth to sky gradient or something like that is what they
Sure.
call it. Like they do it in chrome reflection. Well,
Yeah,
since
yeah.
I'm a little more skilled, a little more experienced in an airbrush, I wanted to try and do that with the windows because at least on one of them I didn't glue the window in,
Nice.
and I intended that one to be the one that would be painted so it's all closed up. There's no interior paint jobs or anything, nobody hanging out the sides, that kind of thing. And yeah, I wanted to pick up two more snow speeders because I want to run four snow speeders, and with my discount, it's not that bad for two. But then I can actually have a flight of them, and again, another opportunity to kind of flex the airbrush skills a little bit more and try and because all those big flat panels are kind of just begging for that kind of stuff, it seems. But yeah,
Fair.
what are you thinking of doing?
So I will emphasize what the tournament that we're planning on doing is. So usually we do our Star Wars Legion tournament each first Saturday of every month, and it just so happens that this year May the 4th is the first Saturday, so we will have a tournament where we kind of break the rules for Star Wars Legion. It is a standard 800 point list limit, but we're changing the rules so that you have to have a commander, so regular commander unit or a field commander in a heavy, and outside of that, no restrictions. So the main list will typically like you have to have a commander, you have to have 3 core units minimum. Outside of that, you can only have X amount of each unit type, and we're taking that away. You're locked by faction. You're locked by regular. Like can't put a Death Trooper DLT in a Shore Trooper squad. There's a bunch of other little caveats along those lines, but the incentive and the idea is you are here to just play with your plastic models on Star Wars Day. So some of your favorite stuff, if you couldn't necessarily take it in a list, like you just want to take Krennic and say 8 Death Troopers. If you want to buy 8 Death Troopers, have fun, buy 8 Death Troopers, throw them on the table. Um, Stuff like that, have at it. Because I have a modeling and idea addiction, like I have a lot of things that I've kind of played with that I can just be super annoying, like Ahsoka and Sabine. Uh, Oops, all Mandos list, or for Rebels, or I could do. We mathed out like 19 B1 squads or something.
19 with the cheapest tactical
I'm pretty
T series
sure.
tactical droid,
I'm pretty
but that's
sure I
before
could get.
upgrades.
Yeah, I'm pretty sure I could get there in the models that I have, because I essentially have 2 armies, both of which I could field in a full invasion force list, so up to 8 B1s. So that gets me to 16, but that's also not including like each squad's upgrades, because I have bought like B1 upgrades and the I guess it really only matters for the B1, but like the B1 upgrades, and that's not including the first army that I attempted and backed out of. Because like I have the Elish Norn B1 squad, so they're all that porcelain white with red, uh, looking like they have guts in certain portions of the body panels. And I have Count Dooku's House Serrano list, where they've got the like dark green, light green vibe going on of his like house crest. But I also, way back, wanted to do an invasion of Dathomir list from when Dooku and Grievous wiped out the Night Sisters. So, like, they all started out in like that dark red with yellow panel lining coloring, and the bases looked like Dathomir, but I just ended up not vibing with that color scheme, and because I really like the Night Sisters, I was less motivated because this is the army that wipes out the Night Sisters, so I was like, I don't really want to finish it. But it was also a They were all pre-sprayed, painted on sprue, and they're all still on the sprue. So it's like if I wanted to be really, really annoying, 19B1 squads and a T series, I could do that. I could probably do that. And as we've talked about multiple times, I like to be annoying, but I also like for it to be funny. Like the VBL list, you can literally machine gun them. So, like, yes, it's a shit ton of things, but it's also not like super OP things. If you were to take a 20 activation list, it quickly becomes not fun for the other player because not only are you playing a full round together, but then you're playing half a round by yourself because you just have 10x more than everyone else. Plus, in this format, if people want to bring the really big things, that may mean a lot of people are only going to show up with 5 acts, which means I get to play 3 rounds by myself in each round because they just can't do anything about it. Will they last a
Yeah,
long
I mean,
time?
mine's 6, so
Yeah, will they last a long time against airspeeders? Probably not, but it's not the fun kind of. It's just not fun because then it's just constantly like, ah, what is 19 times 6? Oh boy, that's like 96 wounds that you have to chew through. And you just don't throw that much dice. So it's very much like I could do it. I don't really foresee us having a lot of fun, which is why I'm kind of waffling between either a uh, Mando, Sabine, Ahsoka list or a Jin Pathfinder something else list, or I'm pretty sure I have a list. I gotta check my Legion HQ links. But I think I have like a 3 act or a 4 act decent upgrade list with like 3 AATs for the droid army and Kalani. So that I'm basically just like, I don't really want to go anywhere, but that thing over there, fuck that thing over there. Uh, Combined with the fact that it's behind red saves and Kalani's giving aims and yeah, stuff like that. I'm not looking at like if there was something that I wanted to play that I would buy because like I looked at it, I was like, oh, maybe this is an opportunity to branch. But the stuff that I would want to play and do this with would be Gar, but the stuff that I would want to do it with is not out yet. Like I would run uh what I would basically call Scarato's like VOD. And then just run nothing but clone commandos and like a Mando acting as like Rex or something. Like a stand-in Mandalorian uh being run as Rex with just a shit ton of clone commandos in the squad.
yeah, I'm excited to see what people do because it's not just like go big or take a million things. I think like the genesis of the idea is that I want to take everybody that was on the Falcon, in
Do
X
it.
episode, all the heroes,
Do it.
take the main cast kind of thing.
I mean, I can't like that's an achievement in the league bounty board and I can't put you in the board, but like that's part of like what some of that is cuz for the most part we do serious tournaments in terms of like regular 800 points, full rules, all that stuff. But then we also like to break it out so that, there's something different, entices people to play differently, build more of a community instead of like, no, this is for worlds 100% of the time. And so I'm really looking forward to see, because like I think the 1600 point doubles was kind of the same thing. Like part of the reason I took uh, Iden Tech Strike with Jin and Pathfinders, it was like, hey, you're never going to get an opportunity, but it's super creative. And then if you really think about it, like aside from the timing overlap of like them not being rebels at the same time because one of them's dead, uh, like essentially you could run that list as all rebels because they can just be like no named Imperial defectors joining Iden's assault squad, going with Pathfinders and stuff like that. So it's just a way to let people explore creativity and be a part of the community and just share the like, wouldn't this be broken? Wouldn't this be stupid? Kind of thing.
Yeah, I mean, it's gonna be a good time.
Yeah, we'll definitely see. Um, the other idea that I'm having that I would love to try and figure out is, so my rebel army is already based and painted as if they're Ferrix workers uprising against the Empire, like in the Andor show. So I would love to do like a combination um, Andor Rogue One themed army in a way that like I don't need to be super competitive. I can just play this and not have to worry about like, oh, you're not meeting this requirement or you're not doing this kind of stuff. So waffling real good right now about what I could play. I'll build a list and nothing has grabbed me yet to be like, this is what you need to do. Not like Iden Jin Tax Strike.
Chatting about it is making me waffle a little bit more. Although the one thing I know for sure that I want to do is that it's going to involve an excessive amount of snow speeders. It you know,
I love
I
it.
think I could take like five maybe, or can I take? I think I can take six with wedge and one, no upgrades. I think I don't have a list builder in front of me,
Fair.
but mostly as I didn't want to, like, I'm very thematic and I was like, okay, four. I'm willing to buy two just for this. I don't want to buy four just for this. Um,
But they could like go on the shelf and just look pretty.
yeah, but I've already see that's the thing is when I got into this, a certain someone told me you could take like four heavies,
Yeah.
and so I invested. I was lied to. So then they got chopped up and turned into terrain.
I mean, what are you talking about? Look at May 4th. You can definitely take, as many heavies as you want.
Yeah.
Yeah, so that's our May 4th journey coming up at Blue Sky. Hit up our Discord if you have any questions or you want to know more about it, or even just the format on, how we're doing it, what rules we have in place, stuff like that. But I think since we're talking about Legion, that's a good segue into our past week's World Qualifying, as both you and I got games in at our last regular 800 point tournament, and not against each other, surprisingly enough.
Yeah, you want to go first?
Yeah, sure. Once again, I was playing my It's in the Bag list. Quick reminder: Jin, Ahsoka, uh, one veteran, one Mark II, one Rebel Trooper squad with shotgun, uh, two Pathfinders, one with POW, one with Biston, and a speeder with Shriv, like a X-34 with Shriv. And the general idea is to infiltrate. Now, I don't need to go crazy, and I don't need to go all the way out to something and push the boundary of like, oh, we're at range 3, oh, boogeyman. A lot of the times it's like just get up to a spot that's defensible, and then Ahsoka's gonna rush there in the speeder, and then start doing crazy things as it's like the forward operating base. Uh, so I played our first buy with another younger listener. His name's Liam, uh, and he brought Gar with Cody, a commander, three phase ones or all phase twos. I forget. One had a medic, one had a mortar, and I forget what the other one did. I think the other one was just a, I think maybe Z6. Um, and Echo and an Arc Strike plus an ISP with rockets and a saber with the beam weapon. Um, I did not want to see that on the other side of the table because if you have one armored thing, I think I can do okay. Depending on what it is. If it's a saber, I don't really want to fight it. I will probably just try to put a lot of terrain between me and it so it can't shoot. But I saw the flip when it came to choosing objective deployment condition, and I knew what deployment I had to let get through because a lot of people still don't know how to play it, and a lot of people make the mistake, and it is the one deployment where I will 100% put all my infiltrate in your face because it usually goes one of two ways. So the deployment is disarray, and it is a small deployment zone in each corner of the map where you have a deployment zone on your side of the table and your opponent's side, and vice versa. So each of you have two of the corners that are opposing corners from each other, and you have to put at least one unit in there. So I looked at his list and was like, you need to be bunched up. And I can either get rid of a quick and dirty activation by stacking here and then fighting the rest, or you're going to make a mistake that Jed has made in the past where you look at the Pathfinders and you're like, well, they're just white saves. Like, why do I care about that? And Jin's white saves too. So I think I know what I'm going to do about this. So what I did was he placed, as they always do, he placed one unit on his side of the table, and I went, cool, Pathfinder, Biston squad, behind heavy cover and out of line of sight from his deployment zone on my side of the table. And he's like, oh. And I'd asked him beforehand, do you know what infiltrate does? And he was like, yep. And I ran through it real quick with him just to be sure. And he's like, yep, got it. I've got a friend that runs them. And I was like, cool. And then I dropped Jin. And he was like, huh, I should probably put a unit over there. And I was like, I mean, depending on if you want to zone me or not. And so he put a unit over there. And that meant the third squad had to go, the last Pathfinder squad had to go just outside of range 3. So it was between my deployment zone and his deployment zone on short side in light cover, just chilling, but at an angle so that I could easily move into range 2 and just start gunning things down. And he looked at that and went, oh, well, that's just Pathfinders and Jin. I'm going to put my tank over here. I was like, ooh, yes, this is where I thought that was going to go. Because previously he had just put an ISP in like one unit over in his corner. And I was like, yes, you have split them up, you fool. So then the X-34 goes down right across from it, and he goes, "Is the guy the rocket?" And I was like, "Yeah." "Does he have the ion gun?" I was like, "No, I can't afford it." And he's like, "Oh, okay. So that's not gonna hurt too bad." And I was like, "That's not your concern." And he's like, "Well, I mean, will you put it over here to like counter uh my saber?" And I was like, "Well, yes. Just do your next deployment." And he goes, "Okay." So he puts out another squad inside the zone where the saber is, and then Ahsoka went in the land speeder, and he goes, "Oh, oh." Like you could just see like, "Oh, I see why you said that." And then it processed that that meant Ahsoka was going to get to his side really, really fast. And so he then put everything else on that side. So that left the ISP and the, I think it was the mortar squad, like off in one corner by itself with my shotgun squad just staring at it from the deployment zone. And then everything else either infiltrated or scouted to get closer to his deployment where he put all his stuff. And he was like, "I don't think this is gonna go good." And I was like, "That's my hope, is to teach you a lot of lessons about why people hate this list." um, and that was really what determined the game, because ultimately I knew that if I couldn't get shenanigans off, I was not going to make it as close as I ended up making it, because we did lots of shooting, obviously being that close. One of the biggest key things that happened very early on was Biston got a wound and an ion through on the Saber, and the Saber saw everybody moving in and had to, on the first turn, instead of shooting any of the Pathfinders, had to rotate so that its weak sides would not be facing the speeder or Pow or Ahsoka on the way in. So like he had to rotate it to get weak sides out, and that gave me so much time to really start laying wounds in, because that let the veteran, it let the Mark II, Jin, and Pow start picking apart the infantry on the first round, um, when he could have been wiping like squads off the board. Uh, Overall, Ahsoka got in, did Ahsoka things, but as he correctly countered, because I think the Saber died in round 3 from Ahsoka just going ham on it, but uh, he still had a lot of heavy weapons up, and he was getting decent rolls, and I obviously rolling white saves was just not getting anything in return. But he never killed the speeder. So at the end of the game, Jin, because we were playing key positions, Jin was holding one key position all by herself, and then Ahsoka had the speeder re-picked her up and flew her over to the other key position to hold it just as Echo was running onto the terrain piece, and he held another one that like the Pathfinders went down in a blaze of glory on. So we ended up tying on objective points, and it came down to the wire of him winning by 25 points, because it was another one of those. The only thing I had on the table was Jin, Ahsoka, and the speeder, which turns out is like 400 something points. But when he showed me like how many I killed of his, because he just had, there was one of his fucking P2 squads escaped with a captain on it, and I had to make the choice because it was either lose on VPs or take it to kill points. And Ahsoka could have killed his clone captain of the squad, and it would have pushed me over, but then I wouldn't have been able to contest. It was like you go one way or you go the other. Not enough actions to do both. So it was a very similar game to how you and I play, and I was super fucking excited. Liam was super happy that he was able to play around that, and we talked after, and he was like, "So that was way more painful than it should have been, right?" And I was like, "Yeah. Why did you split the ISP away from your like main army? Like I figured." Because like the thing that I tell everybody is like just throw the sacrificial unit over there. Once you see that you've fucked up and you let your opponent infiltrate, not necessarily in, but into a heavy cover line of sight area where they can dictate the battle, give them the one unit, do your clone ball thing on the other side, and I would have never been able to get close. But because he stacked like his big key pieces in the corner where all my heaviest guns were and where Ahsoka was already pointed at, it was just like, yeah, maybe don't let me do that, especially if you're not intending on winning priority in the first round. Because I knew off the bat, I was like, he did something, got the a couple dodges around, like, and he had veteran clone pilot, so he could share the dodge on like the nearby clone squad. But the saber also had a dodge, and I still came around the corner with Biston, forced like 4, 5 saves, and he was just like, ah, this is gonna hurt. And I was like, yep, that's what I'm hoping for. So we talked about it after. I was like, you should have just given me a sacrificial or put like Echo over there, so that he would have kept negating the Pathfinder wounds cover, because they were only ever in like Pal was only ever in light cover, but he was getting heavy with suppression. So like he could have just kept like reducing it down, and every time he would like critical pierce, he would like get a critical, he would lethal to pierce. And I was like, if you had just kept doing that, like you just had Echo in that corner, Echo picked off from where he was at most of Pow anyways. So if he had just placed him in that corner and dealt with the Pathfinders, even if he died, that would have meant that I had like 5, 6 units going after Echo, because of where I deployed. And that's just in an 8-act list. That means like, well, the rest of them are up against that clone ball, and that's no bueno. So, we talked about it, and he like really learned. I think it was kind of his first time playing. I'm pretty sure it was his first time playing in a tournament style, and he did pretty well for the day. So he's definitely going to be one to watch. But I was just super excited that it was ridiculously close at the end of it.
Nice. Mine was certainly fun. I didn't feel nearly as close. I got tabled. Um, Yet again, a lesson in me getting excited to do something stupid and not necessarily thinking about the intelligent thing to do. Um, Not to diminish the skill of my opponent, but certainly there were things I could have done to hedge my bets one way or another.
Sure.
I was also, because I have now embraced the air quotes here bag list mentality. I talked briefly about it earlier, but mine is triple Wookiees, 4 rebel squads with shotguns, and some other upgrades, and Han and Chewie. Kind of thinking along the lines of, like Kashyyyk, Kashyyyk, if you will, like Liberation Force or something like that. And
Right.
a lot of the times when it comes to miniatures games, if there's a way that I can get in melee and beat someone up, I generally enjoy that a lot. And we were playing Breakthrough, and it was a funny instance where I can't for the life of me remember now what the deployment's called. It's the one that gives every infantry unit scout.
Advanced
Is
positions.
that advanced positions where you're playing in opposite corners, and you have basically a range 1 strip in each corner from one edge of the table. Basically, one half of a square cut diagonally. Anyway, so I do what I've realized that seems counterintuitive in my brain, but is probably the smart thing to do, which is huddle my units for the most part all together so they can support one another. I had, I think the list, what did I just say, was 3, 4, 7, 9 activations. My opponent was playing, also playing Wookiees, the Battle Force for Republic, with Chewie, a whatchamacallit, the Chieftain, 2 Flyers, the Wookiee Flyers, a Saber Tank, and 3 squads of Wookiees, which is only 8 activations. And because of Breakthrough, which is is it your deployment zone now? I'm wondering if we did it wrong, or is it your opponent's table edge?
No, it's deployment zone.
Okay, that's what I thought. I was just doubting myself. But because of where it was, we both were like leaning towards just bum rushing the other side and just ignoring fighting. And he's like, "Oh," and I was like, "Yeah, I have more activations than you." so if you can't kill anything and I get all my stuff over there and you get all your stuff in mine, I'm gonna win. And so he kind of starts inching his tank forwards, brings in the Flyers. They do some damage. They don't completely wipe stuff out, but then I saw an opportunity for Wookiees to trample over a building and dive into combat, and it was fun. I got to kill a bunch of stuff, but in the end I got tabled. Han got caught out in the open because I thought I was going to have cover from something, but I was dumb and didn't. And I forgot, and I was like, well, the tank is basing that. Because I was like, oh, I got a suppression. He's shooting through like cover. I have low profile. That'll be 3 because of low profile. I was like, oh no, he's basing it. It was a lot of fun, and it reminded me of how much I like the Saber Tank. Because I assume you probably played it back in the day. It was the Star Wars Clone Wars game where you're just in vehicles, where they introduced the saber.
Just
Do you
in
remember
vehicles? That one? Demolition?
Yeah. I think you did go. You were on foot as a Jedi sometimes, but you could pilot the saber tank, the lat gunship. Did you ever play that one?
Are you talking Battlefront?
No. I am not talking Battlefront. I know that much. I played it on the OG Xbox. It's just Star Wars Clone Wars. I'll send you a link to it, or something.
I'm googling now. I'm just I don't remember.
Anyway, while you Google, I will wax about the Saber Tank. Big fan, always liked it, and I've been itching to play more. Play more Legion and hobby on Legion, but I'm tired of working on Rebels. I have everything that I would ever want for Rebels, which is almost everything in the entire line, minus Mandos. I don't have enough to run all Mandos. But I realized I could run
you don't
double
know
saber.
Anybody who has extras or anything.
Right, but I'm not interested though. like, I'm not interested in running triple Mandos just for funds to try it out. Like, whatever. But double sabers, Cody, because he does all the stuff for vehicles, and like 4 phase 1s with upgrades is like 800 points. I really like painting clones. I paint them in the past for like stormies and stuff. Painting the crispy white is very satisfying, and again, painting vehicles is fun, especially now that I'm better with an airbrush. So I'm thinking just that's all it'll be. Probably won't branch out. I hope not. I really liked the clone commandos a lot in that game too. In the other video game, what the fuck was it called?
Are you serious? Republic
yeah, I'm
Commando?
having a moment. Okay. Yeah. Anyway, but yeah, my game was good. Just yeah.
I played it. I just saw the box art. I had it on PlayStation 2. I kind of forgotten about it.
Because I'm pretty sure that might have been the introduction of the saber. It was certainly my introduction to the saber tank.
Yeah, I mean that's probably up to debate as to like when and what. Because I don't know the timelines on like Battlefront and stuff like that. But yeah, good to hear. Good to talk. Um, Anything else you want to add? Do you want to move into a game that outside observers said looked like everybody was miserable in, but I don't think that was the case?
Yeah, let's do it.
So last time we talked about how we were going to play a Victory at Sea game because Carl um, had just bought in and finally painted his stuff and wanted to put them on the table. And because I remember we talked about that, like, oh, this is gonna be cool. We're gonna do list building and yada yada yada. And nobody list built. We all just kind of showed up with like, yeah, this is what I'm gonna take, and uh, I want to say I think we did it well, but I think we fucked up by taking what I will call real fleets. And what I mean by real fleets is we took a balance. We took cruisers, we took destroyers, we took battleships, some of us took submarines, some of us took aircraft. We took a well balanced fleet for the game. The reason I say we fucked up in doing that is because that meant the game was gonna take forever. Um, because everybody had to move shit. I think we both had 15 activations, not including the fucking aircraft. So we got to the point where we're like, oh, well, mainly we just want to see where the battleships are going. So stall until we see where the battleships are going. And both fucking sides did that. And so while each person waited for each person to move the ships that they decided on, um, we were all just kind of like, this is boring as fuck. Which turned out to be most of the game, and we didn't even finish round two. But that's because we started a little bit later than we normally do. Um,
Even then, I mean, it was like 3 hours for most of two turns. Like we got pretty close on turn two.
yeah,
It's yeah.
and you guys were able to sync some stuff. We were able to sync some stuff. Um, and I still, because Adam and I were talking about this after, I still think the way we did it was really cool. But I think that if we were gonna do it again, it would be more of a like, we're sitting down to enjoy each other's company kind of thing. So we're gonna show up on a Sunday. We're gonna order pizza and beer, and we're gonna sit down and we're gonna do this, and we're gonna laugh. We're gonna joke. Because I definitely think we all kind of sat down like, this is going to be fast paced, facts action. Because what we did was, just as reminders, our last podcast, we did two members on a team. Each member got to fill out 1,500 points on a list. You and Carl played both IJN, and then I did Regia Marina and Kriegsmarine with John. And then we just went out and duked it out. And you could say it was like a training exercise between the Axis, if you really wanted to be like somewhat historical. Um, and when it came to how did we handle the turn activation, we said each team gets to activate one ship. So we were still doing alternating sides. And the incentive was to converse about what tactic you were going to do and who do you think you should move and who the target should be. But when you take a bunch of low destroyers that you just know have to get into torpedo range, and you're waiting to see where the battleship goes and who can get what shots on it, it really just comes down to, you move your destroyers, I'll move my destroyers and lower ships of that kind of caliber, and then we'll talk once we get to like moving cruisers that can deal decent damage at range and our battleships, stuff like that. So like for the most part, it was like, do we want to stall? Yeah, we'll stall. I moved to submarine. Do we want to stall? Yeah. And so when the second round started, like nobody really talked. We all knew that we were gonna to stall out, and then move. Because like when we started doing shooting, it was like when everybody was in range and stuff was happening. Like the shooting phase was a lot more busy, and like you had those conversations and stuff was happening. It was just that fucking move phase where like we were like, okay, you move all your stuff because we're stalling. Don't move Bismarck and Turpitz. I won't move the cunt and I'm blanking on my big battleship. The Littorio. And it's like, cool, okay. The Conte de Cavour that we started calling the cunt, or at least I did. Um, and then you would just shuffle everything else, just to like force the other people to move their battleships first. Um, and yeah, it was very much just waiting and waiting and waiting until you got to the shoot phase. Um, so I definitely think it's a game like doing that is great if you can be personable and conversations, or you're not as like super involved, because like I still enjoyed it, especially when we got to the shooting phase, but getting to the shooting phase was rough.
Yeah, rough to say that. To put it nicely.
Yep.
Because at a few points there for me, I was just like, oh my god.
Yep. And
Would anyone mind if I went and got models to paint while I wait, kind of thing?
probably not. Um,
Eh,
and we'll say that like you guys, we just decided to go off kill points at the end. You guys took it. You definitely had one of my cruisers, but you guys picked John's battleships right off the bat, and you said those are what we're going to fuck up, and you did. And my torpedoes on, even though I had the perfect, oh, it was the perfect deployment for my submarines. Um, your two heavy hitters had even, I didn't expect that, but you had split them far enough between them that I could line up all three submarines so that I could shoot out the ass and I could shoot out the front into both of your ships. Except on more than one occasion, no damage. Not a single fucking hit. So, in if I had gotten hits, I'm not even saying like they had to be fancy. If I had just done a little bit more damage, because I think one of them literally escaped with like teens amount of HP left. Um,
yeah.
and I could have probably crippled the other one. It would have been a lot closer in terms of points lost, but I think I only killed one of your things. I don't think Carl even lost anything, and John's battleships were just so hammered that they couldn't even really throw dice back out when it was their turn. Um, Even playing the critical rules correctly this time, like they lasted longer than they would have. But it was just they couldn't return fire because you guys kept killing a turret or making them roll to see if the turret could shoot stuff, and it just was throwing out pitiful damage afterwards. Um, and I do think one of the funniest things to come out of it though was like Carl looking over at you and being like, "Why is Fi shooting at your destroyers?" I was like, "Because they still have fucking torpedoes and they're not within range yet. And the things that I'm shooting at your destroyers with are twin linked, fast tracked, so they're the best things to try and kill them before you get in close." And he just kept being surprised that like I was trying to kill the things with the torpedoes, and if we had gone another round, the other two would have died too, because they were both on like 2 health. So it was super annoying that I had gotten like your entire fleet down to like, another round of shooting, and I could have probably sunk your shit and crippled one. But because movement took so long, we never got there. So
Next time we do that, I mean, I don't know what we're playing tomorrow. We haven't even
oh
approached that
fuck yeah, we
subject.
should.
Yeah. I'm just gonna. So Chase has a copy of the Yamato. I'll just run it as the Musashi and take a Nagato. That's like 1725. Oh, wait, no. Yeah. Shit. Yeah, no, I'm taking the Yamato next time. Oh, I did. I'm all messed up. Suffice to say, I'm gonna get there in fewer ships with higher points.
Yep, that's my plan as best as I can.
After that game too, and I went home, I was reading through the Facebook group, the unofficial Facebook group for Victory at Sea, because it has like a lot of contentious conjecture as a segment on our podcast, and
True.
frequently it's about um, groups being shitty about a game or whatever. But this one seems to have like a lot of reasonable arguments about the problems the game has, like points not making a whole lot of sense for the performance of the ship kind of thing. The game clearly being more fun if you don't play with aircraft in some ways. Like it seems like it's more fun as a if you're just gonna sit down and pick up a game of big battleships duking it out kind of thing with some support stuff where they're like it seems like aircraft are more enjoyable because they're like super points efficient, I think is the argument.
True.
2 points efficient for what the potential that they can deal, that you need to be your opponent needs to be prepared for it,
But
or it can be kind of a bad time.
I
But
don't even think that's the case anymore because we evidenced this in a game like 3 weeks ago when we first learned that we were missing an anti-aircraft step. Like yeah, the locals don't get to
oh,
shoot,
true that, yeah.
but your dual purpose guns get to, and it was stupid. It is why when I took that list in our 3K game, our 2-on-2, that I did not ever put the, I forget what the aircraft were, but it's the like little tri-engine, it kind of looks like a cargo craft that they strap a torpedo to on the bottom. Um, the Italian thing. It's like I did not let them move past my airship line because like the plan, or my not my airship, my ship line, because the plan was wait to see who breaks through and then jump it before you can really bring enough guns to bear. Like wait for the crits to stack up, you get the minus on the guns and take my chance. But like the game that we played like 3 weeks ago, I knocked John's out of the air before he ever got close, and John knocked mine out of the air before they ever got close. And so this game, I was just like, the only reason I brought him was because I had the points, and that was it. I didn't have the models to fill in with destroyers, so I said, fuck it. We're gonna take 4 or 5 of these ships or these aircraft, and we're just gonna make it work. And then when I remember that rule, and I asked what your range was on the guns, I was like, oh, 19 inches aren't gonna get me in there before you just get to unload essentially twice on me. Because like your light guns never really shot at my stuff, so they would have been great to like hit me in the AA phase and then hit me in your regular shooting turn to just be like, oh yeah, I'm not gonna really touch that Littorio, but I can sure fuck up those torpedo bombers on the way in. I was just like, We're just gonna hover back here and wait. Like I don't like. They are more now of that. If I get a torpedo through, I get a torpedo through. Other than that, I don't care. It was literally just to fill points. Now I would just rather load up destroyers or submarines, especially being my submarines as Italy are fucking 30 points. Yeah, I'll take 10 extra points for something that potentially can do more damage and survive way better than an aircraft. Because, like, I felt like I just gave you 80 to 100 points for no reason if they moved within range. Because I have consistently only ever gotten one through when we were playing with the regular AA, or like what we thought the AA rules were. So now if you get to shoot at them twice, fuck, they're not worth it. It's a
Yeah.
ship game.
Like I get that, like you see in the movies, right? Like I get that it was like a, 1 in 1,000 shot or something. But again, we've made this argument before. It's also a game. It's kind of a game first before it's a reenactment.
Yeah,
So
and I will say like it really struggles to decide, and this is a healthy criticism because I still love the game. It is incredibly enjoyable. This is not Stockholm syndrome. Like when you get the crits to just roll downhill because you've stacked six twice, it is glorious. And now that we've learned that like you have to confirm crits because that was something else we were doing. Um, that means your ships get to last a little bit longer, but it also makes those crits that much more delicious.
yeah, it
When they,
definitely it feels so much more earned. Like it doesn't. You don't feel bad when you get a ridiculous crit because you really had to work for it. Now,
yep, yep, and I'm just like I'm here for it. I love that aspect in the game, but it really can't decide if it wants historical or if it wants game. And I kind of wish it would lean more into game because I would probably love it a lot more and probably be a little bit more balanced. Um, and if it was more historical, I probably would just drop it because that sounds too tedious, and I've only got room in my brain for one tedious game, and that's Team Yankee.
yeah, yeah, that one's pretty tedious too.
Yeah, but I love it too. Like as ridiculous and pedantic as it can be, that one it just scratches all the niches, baby.
Yeah, you got. Is that it for today, or we got anything else?
Nope, I think that's about it. I don't really have a contentious conjecture. I haven't seen anybody say something that just makes me be like, stop taking the fun out of the community lately. So, although I will
Yeah.
say, I got taken for a April Fools because I don't always listen to podcasts right when they come out. Like sometimes I just listen to music for a little bit on the commute because I have a long ass commute, and then eventually I'll get back to podcasts and I'll catch up. And there was a podcast that they were doing spoiler episodes for the new Star Wars Legion releases, and then at the end of it, they snuck in four Qui Gon Jinn, Viper probe droid, Jar Jar Binks, and I forget what the other one was. But the reason I say it got me because when I was like listening, because I only listened to half the podcast, and when it ended, they had just covered Qui Gon, and I was like, how the fuck did I miss this reveal? that doesn't make sense. It's not on the roadmap. How are we already have this data? That implies that someone broke NDA for testing new shit. And it's like I did a quick googling of it, and then like as I went to like type it into Google, I was like, wait a minute, April Fool's was like 2 weeks ago. I bet this is an April Fool's. And then like I immediately went to like finish off the rest of the podcast, and I was like, if they say fucking Jar Jar, it's an April Fool's. And then sure enough, Jar Jar was like the third one. I forget who the fourth one was. And then they don't say anything. But apparently the rest of the community thought they were like breaching some shit and like really went after him. So like on their next episode, they had to be like, yeah. It was an April Fool's joke. We thought we were pretty clear, especially from the standing of we do not cover leaks and we do not cover spoilers unless it is officially put out by AMG or FFG back in the day. They're like, this is a long-standing policy we've always had because of what our focus is, and like we can't really believe that you guys would think that like this is the route we went down. And I was like, haha, suckers. So
Uh, was it like the biggest Legion podcast in
yeah,
the Legion sphere? Okay,
yeah.
fair.
So I mean, they got me for like a split second until like I went to Google it, and then I remembered that like April Fool's was like 2 weeks ago at the time that I was listening to it. And I realized that like I hadn't listened to them in like 3 episodes. So I was like, ah, damn, they got me. I bet they say Jar Jar, and it's gonna be, and if they say Jar Jar, it's gonna be a fucking April Fool's. And sure enough, and I was like, touche. It was real obvious to me, but apparently the rest of a lot of people in the community didn't get that.
They take whatever they say as gospel,
Yeah,
basically. Like, well, they said it has to be true.
yeah, and I was like, I'll give them fucking credit. They did real good. Like they did full on like, oh yeah, this is like really awesome, but I don't know how this is gonna work. I don't really know how I feel about this. And they had like reached out to somebody in the Discord and asked to borrow their specific like homebrew creations. So not only did they like do this as a prank, but they also did cards that people would have seen in the homebrew community who may have recognized the person who like designed these and been like, oh, that's funny. But like, of course, most of the community doesn't homebrew, or like maybe they're not in the Discord. They just listen to the podcast. So like they got me because they committed real hard to it. We're like, yeah, but you know this keyword's really cool, and you know they lets them do this, but I don't really know how like I wouldn't have added this, and like they really sold it. But throwing Jar Jar in there was the one hundo. Like, nah, dude, this is a prank. You guys got kind of shit. So
I assume Jar Jar was the last one they talked about.
no, no,
Oh, okay.
and he wasn't the first, because like they had talked about in the follow-up episode that they were like, yeah, if we had put him first, it would have been super obvious. But
Yeah.
it's partly why I can't remember who the fourth one was, because they did four, and I remember it went Qui-Gon, and I was like, okay, because they were like Qui-Gon as an operative for Gar, and I was like, okay, I'm digging that. That's cool. And then they go Viper Droid, and I was like, oh hell yeah! Literally something everybody's been wanting. Sweet, sweet, sweet.
It's believable, honestly.
Yeah, all stuff that's believable. And then Jar Jar, and I was like, nope, I'm out of the game. I'm nope. And they tried to do it the right way. They didn't do like the Sith acolyte alternate theory shit.
Yeah.
They literally just were like, it is Jar Jar, honorable senator from Naboo or whatever. So they tried to like go the Padme Amidala route with it, and I was like, nah. That's that's an April Fool's joke. And then like I pretty much like tuned out once it like fully set in, and I don't remember the fourth one. But they were all like, yeah, 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 kind of things. Maybe they did five because I feel like they did
To
one
that
for
bit
each.
though.
Yeah,
Oh, one for each faction.
yeah, I think they did one for each faction, but I can't remember the Rebel one because like it came after Jar Jar because they did the two Gar, and then they did Imperial, and then Rebel was something cool because I remember thinking like I'd rock that. I would love to put that on the table, kind of thing. And I don't even remember what the last one was, but like it was good, and I think that's as close to a contentious conjecture as we're gonna get tonight.
So I kind of want to go listen to that episode. I'm curious what they picked for Rebels now.
Yeah, it's at the like the spoilers start at like the halfway mark on that episode,
Okay.
because they do the uh clone commandos and fuck, what are the Imperial getting? The
Oh, riot dudes with the
no
shields.
no. The the article had just come out for the new Imperials with the fur jackets. I'm blanking. Range
Oh,
troopers.
range troopers. Okay, yeah,
Yeah,
yeah.
yeah. So like they were covering that news article, like both the news articles for Clone Commandos and the Range Troopers. And then we're like, and then on top of that, we got these other spoilers out. Let's go over these real quick. And I was like, oh shit. I know I was late to grabbing picture or sharing the articles. Maybe I just fucking whiffed on these too when he's going over Qui-Gon. And then I'm like, I go to hit Google and I'm like, wait a minute. April
I've been bamboozled.
Fools. Yeah, I've been bamboozled. I've been bamboozled before. I'll be bamboozled again, but maybe I caught this one. And I was like, if they fucking say Jar Jar, I swear to God, if they say Jar Jar, it's an April Fools. And sure enough, and then I was like, bummer, because there's some decent ideas in here. So, but yeah, I think that's where we call it tonight.
All right.
Well, I'm Fi,
I'm Aaron.
and remember, we're all just idiots on the internet.
Heckin' yeah.